Welcome to my channel, detailing events throughout the decades. 2012 Carterton hot air balloon crash. It was January 7, when a hot air balloon took off from Carterton at around 6:38 am. The flight was to take around 45 minutes, and for those on board, they were expecting a delightful scenic flight. On board that morning were 10 passengers, along with the pilot, Lance Hopping, who was said to be one of New Zealand's most experienced balloon pilots, with around 10,000 flying hours. At the time of the departure, the weather was lovely and clear with very little wind. The scenic flight went without any issues, and for those on board, they had experienced a lovely flight. However, all that was about to change, as the balloon came into land. The pilot had indicated to the chase team which followed, that the landing would take place near Somerset Road, which was a rural through road, near to Clareville. The chase team followed to this location, where the balloon was heading. Witnesses report seeing the balloon climb, and drift towards a 10-meter-high 33,000 high-voltage power line, which ran perpendicular to the road. Witnesses then report hearing the pilot shout out to duck down to those passengers on board, as the balloon made contact with the power line, before the electrical arc sparked a fire. It was estimated that the balloon rose between 110 and 150 meters after it hit the wires and caught fire. 2 of the passengers on board jumped from the balloon to avoid the fire. They would both die in the fall. The fire quickly intensified, and it wasn't long before the balloon was engulfed by the fire, before it hurtled towards the ground. Sadly, onlookers could only stand and watch, as the balloon made contact with the ground. For some of those on board, the balloon flight had been a Christmas present, and was to be a lovely scenic flight. Horrified relatives could only stand and watch in complete horror at what they were witnessing. Emergency services were quick to respond to the scene, but sadly, no one from the balloon had survived. It took 2 days for the bodies to be recovered from the scene, where they were taken away to be identified. The wreckage was examined at the scene before being taken away, but authorities were puzzled by what caused the accident in such perfect conditions. The accident was investigated, and it was concluded by the Transport Accident Investigation Commission that the pilot had made an error of judgment when he saw the power lines. He had tried to outclimb the power lines, rather than using a rapid descent to bring the balloon quickly down to the ground. It was also found that the pilot had tested positive for tetrahydrocannabinol, which means he could have been under the influence of cannabis at the time, which could have led to his error in judgment with the situation. Without any survivors, we won't ever really know what was going on in the balloon at the time of the crash. It was in January 2016, that a memorial was erected near to the site of the tragedy, to remember those who had perished that morning. We remember those 11 people who died on that fateful morning. May you always be remembered. We also remember the relatives of the victims, some of whom had witnessed the tragedy. Our thoughts are with you. Thank you for watching and learning about these tragic events, which we hope will never be forgotten. Please subscribe to my channel to view other events throughout the decades.